Good morning. Day 2, round 1 of the Sprott Tournament of Champions 2026, presented by Crowd Street, a platinum event on the PSA Squash Tour, getting the tour kick-started here in 2026. And what a venue, the Vanderbilt Hall, right in the middle of New York City at Grand Central Terminal. Good morning, welcome wherever you're watching around the world. This is the half-an-hour preview show of Day 2's events and the 8 matches that we've got to look forward to here. Nicole, Bunyan and Vanessa Atkinson in the studio alongside myself, Michael Absalom. And I guess we really start with yesterday's headlines. Timmy Brownell coming out on top against Marwan ElShorbagy, beating the World No.7 and the recent winner of the Motor City Open as well. So a great scalping for Timmy yesterday.
Oh, it really was. My favorite shot, we're going to see it soon, is when he hit this corkscrew, which is a very unconventional shot, and he actually completely misdirected Marwan ElShorbagy when he hit the shot, and it ended up being a winner. So I think that kind of just speaks to how he loves to play and exactly why we love seeing Timmy Brownell be able to play on this show court. And
it's what US squash needs, doesn't it? Certainly at the US event here, and got the home fans really excited.
Yeah, it was the only upset of the day, and a very popular one, of course. I think for the rest of the matches, it was more about the top seeds sort of being quite dominant against potentially some tricky opponents. But yeah, it was fantastic to see Timmy Brownell come through.
And lots of US interest today as well. We'll get into the excitement of the wild cards that we'll see for Team USA. But Timmy Brownell, let's review his match yesterday against Marwan ElShorbagy. It sort of had everything. It had the fireworks that you were talking about. It had the corkscrew, which we'll see here very shortly. But what else did this match deliver that maybe some of the others didn't yesterday?
Well, he took all of his opportunities. You see right there, he was looking to expose Marwan ElShorbagy's movement time and time again, and perhaps just getting into his head a little bit. He was being very disruptive with his play, and he didn't let Marwan settle into that classic rhythm that he likes to play in.
Yeah, I mean, he's stuck to his guns. He likes to play quite attacking, very open squash, his pistols even. And he did that really well. He sort of rode those waves of momentum where he was on top of things well, but he also didn't get too erratic when Marwan started to sort of find his lines. It wasn't a great performance by the Jackal, I'd have to say. He was a bit flat, I think, at the start, and that allowed Timmy to kind of get up for it and get confident, and then he was sort of not really ever able to right the ship.
Controversial ending as well, actually. It was decided on a stroke, no stroke decision there at the end, and it went in favour of Timmy. But what was your take on the way it ended, and maybe how that may have deflated or taken a bit of the shine off the win?
Sometimes, yeah, but I think that, to be honest, Timmy did well to put himself in that position. And yeah, it was a controversial ending, and you don't want to win a match like that, especially when it gets reviewed, and it just kind of take the air out of the sails a little bit. But credit to him, he played really well to get in there and get himself into that position. So
Vanessa?
I think he gets all credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Timmy will be bothered in the slightest about how it ended.
Post-match interview, was he?
He will have forgotten all about it. Marwan, on the other hand, you know, and there were very, very tough calls. Roy Gingell was the central referee. He did exactly what he should have done, which, because they'd both lost their review, he threw those two quite difficult calls to the VR. And the VR took a very, very hard line. I didn't agree with the calls, but you know, that's squash, that's part of the game.
State of US squash at the moment, we can talk about the men's and the women's side, and obviously projecting forward to LA 2028 when squash will be making its Olympic debut. What is the future of US squash?
It's on the rise, definitely. I think Timmy is doing a great job of spearheading the men's side. Women, it's already up there, and there's a lot of interest coming through. Obviously, we've got Olivia Weaver, you've got Amanda Sobey, Marina Stefanoni's hot on their heels. She's reached her highest world ranking of 20 recently. Sabrina Sobey's making her comeback. And then there's a bunch of college players as well who are coming through. Caroline Fouts, she's actually won a first round here before as a wild card at the Tournament of Champions. She's at Harvard right now. So there's a lot of
they're all women there so far.
Tier.
Yeah. What about the men's game?
And then Timmy, he made a good play for that last night when he was here. He's encouraging all of the college players to have a go at the Pro Tour after they graduate.
How long does that take to sort of come through that process? I think in other sports, the Olympic cycle's maybe 8 years. I know that's the case in hockey, for instance, which is another sport that I do a bit of work on. What's it like in squash?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a problem coming through college. I think it often helps their squash. I think the main problem that the US faces is that a lot of those college players don't have the aspiration necessarily to play pro squash. So it's actually a really small pool of players that they're drawing from in comparison to, say, Egypt. US has very, very good juniors, very good junior program. They're producing juniors right at the top level, but a lot of those juniors are going on to play college squash, but are not going on to play pro squash. Whereas in Egypt, a lot of the best juniors, and they've got even more, do have the aspiration to become pros.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision sometimes here when you choose to go pro, whereas you could go and you can become a lawyer, you could go into finance, become a doctor. I mean, tons of other obviously great professions.
Make money, like proper money.
And you can make more money right from the get-go. So I think that that's something that US Squash has looked to improve, is their funding, so that then if you reach a certain ranking, you are getting well supported, and you're not just, you know, having to either coach, which a lot of players do, or you're not having to go broke to try and play squash. So actually some support coming from the governing body is really helpful.
Well, it's necessary over here. It's still quite an exclusive sport. It's not accessible to people on lower income over here. You know, to play junior squash even, you have to be able to travel, and it's very, very expensive, and that's a problem that Egypt doesn't face again, because it's a lot cheaper over there, and they have so much competition within their own country, they don't need to travel as much either.
Well, speaking of Egypt, let's reflect on an all-Egyptian battle yesterday. Karim Gawad coming out on top against Ali Abu El Ainin, and this was another great match. And of course, Karim El Gawad is the 2017 champion. I've added an L in there, don't know why. But yeah, Karim Gawad winning this match, and in the end, another one of those entertaining ones that we saw yesterday.
It was. We knew there was going to be a lot of shot making in this match, and I'm just really pleased to see Gawad back up after having had an early exit for him by his standards in Karachi the other week. So it's good to see him start off this tournament in good form. That loss actually probably put him in good stead coming into the TOC.
Yeah, I mean, he as we know, he can be vulnerable. He's had a couple of early exits already this season in Qatar, US Open as well, I think was second round. So it is something that he is used to as well, but I think the fact that it was such a tough draw probably helped him. He knew that he needed to be there right from the start, that he couldn't afford a slow first round, and certainly not a slow start in the match. So he was up for it in a way that we don't always see from Gawad. It was a good match though, two very competitive first and second games, and then he really started to get control of things from then on. And as we said with Shabini a little bit yesterday, when he's playing at his best, it's very difficult for his opponents to make it physical, and that's probably what El Ainin was looking for and just wasn't able to do consistently enough.
Missed opportunity for him?
For El Ainin?
Yeah.
I mean, potentially, but he's just got to give it his best shot, doesn't he? Again, when you're playing someone like Gawad, who I think we saw in that video there, the front left corner. If you're putting the ball into that front left corner, and Gawad's got so many options, he's got the chukobos, the hold and the drop, and I mean, everything's at his disposal, then you know that Gawad's there and he's there to compete, and you're going to have him at his best. So I think El Ainin, he gave it his best shot, but unfortunately came up against a Gawad that was really out there to play that day.
And back on the rise, he's a sort of senior statesman on the tour, 34 years of age now, back up to world number 4, former world number 1 and world champion. So where's this form, where's this revitalized Gawad come from?
I mean, I think he's certainly not playing at his peak when he was at his best, but we're seeing a lot of players playing into their mid-30s, even late 30s, all kind of past their peak, but still playing at an incredibly high level, still competing at the very top of the game. And I think it's fantastic. The old idea of sort of going out when you're at your best, we're not seeing that as much now, and I think it's nonsense anyway. It's everyone's personal choice how you want to go about that.
Also depends. I was just going to say, it depends what you define as the best, right? So for him, his best is still on his best day is world number 4. Maybe his worst is 10 or 11 perhaps.
That's
right?
pretty good.
So yeah, it just kind of goes up and down from time to time. But do you think that's more of a physical or a mental thing from him, the ups and downs?
I think it's, when you look at the players at that sort of age in their mid-30s, I think it's a bit of both. I think it's harder to train at the same level that they did when they're younger. They don't maybe have quite the same hunger, so that they sort of pick their moments a little bit more. They often play less tournaments, and I think they become a little bit wiser, so they become cleverer on the court. Your endurance actually can get better, even though they maybe lack a little bit of mobility and speed.
Yeah, you get more aerobic, more of the aerobic side, but the speed drops off a little bit.
We want to switch our attention. Going to switch our attention next to Pakistan and the state of squash in Pakistan. The men's game, the women's game. We've got 2 women experts here in the studio. How do you feel? It's great to have it back on the calendar. They've just come from Karachi. Amina Orfi, the winner there, lifting that title. But great to see Pakistan back on the map. Fantastic
and brilliant to see a big women's event there, which was non-existent when I was playing. I never travelled to Pakistan. There was no tournament to play there. We saw a wild card, I think, or a couple of wild cards on the women's side in the main draw. So the women's game there, which is way behind, is obviously growing. So yeah, that was brilliant to see that happening.
I actually know a Pakistani player named Maria Torpakai Wazir. She has a really interesting story where she had to pretend to be a man or a boy at that time in order to compete and play squash. And so I think, I'm actually trying to remember the exact her highest ranking, but she was winning tournaments, and she came over here to North America actually to be based over here. There's a whole, it's a tremendous story.
There's a movie in that though as well, isn't there? If you sort of wanted
she's
to...
written a book. Yeah,
Has she? Oh, great.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's fascinating.
It's a great read. With us on the socials.
Yeah. So, but I think that she's their most recent star power, and so it'd be good to see some more women's strength coming from Pakistan.
Okay. Well, we've been very busy today. We've sent our roving reporter Joey Barrington out to speak to James Zugg, who is the senior correspondent of US Squash, to find out a bit more about the state of the game in Pakistan.
Joining me here, senior correspondent for US Squash, Jim Zugg, and also published historian and fanatic about the history of the game, starting with Pakistan squash, because that was really the origin of the squash that we kind of see today.
That's right.
Just tell us a little bit about the catalyst with Hashim.
So the game got to Pakistan in the colonial era, and then at partition there was less than 40 courts in the entire country. So it was a real backwater of the game. Hashim Khan comes in, goes to the British Open at age 35, wins the British Open. Incredible story, becomes a global celebrity. And that was really the kicking off of one of the great stories in squash.
And the family as well, the Khan family, how successful they were.
Right.
And the family trees going through with Hashim and Roshan, and also obviously
Azam,
and Jahangir as well. Just, I mean, the British Open titles, I mean, that was dominated by one family, staggered.
Right. I mean, all these generations and incredible players, some of the greatest players in history. And so for decades, everybody said, well, Pakistan, they're incredible. They dominate all the draws, they win all the tournaments, and this will be the way squash will always be in the future.
I mean, clearing up the surname, because you've got Jansher Khan, that was the last Pakistani to win the British Open in 1997. Right. It's a tribal name, isn't it? It's not a family name, because a lot of people think that Jansher's related to Jahangir. He's not.
Right. And even within the dynasty, the cousins, it was the sister-in-law, the brother-in-law, so they weren't exactly sort of a uniform descending, but a lot of them were related, and even sort of distantly related, sometimes like a third cousin.
And the Pakistani Air Force got behind the squash to help really promote it and keep that going through those decades up to 97.
That's right.
Just give us a bit of insight.
So originally the home of Pakistan squash was in Lahore, and then the Air Force sort of took over, the military took over the running of squash in Pakistan, switched to Karachi. They built a great center there in the 70s, and that was really the home of the game going forward.
And what we see now is a real kind of transition. As I said, the last title won 97, Jansher retired in 98, and we haven't seen anything since then. There's not been a major. Why is that?
Well, it's a key question, right? And we always talk about why Egypt is so good now. And I think some of it is cyclical. Countries come and go, they rise, they fall. So it's inevitable that, someday Egypt might not be so strong. I think one of the key issues is leadership, governance. Jahangir Khan, famously when he was 15, goes to Australia. He wants to play in the World Amateur Championships. And Pakistan says no. And so he goes anyway just to enter the individual tournament, barely gets in, only because somebody else defaulted, gets in, wins the tournament at age 15, but he's not on the Pakistan team. So they're always sort of like who gets selected for the team, who's getting pushed. And that's perennially been a problem. I think the other issue is they economically, politically, it's been so hard for them, that country, the last 25, 30 years. And so they are able to put as much effort maybe that they would like to into the game.
Well, exciting times. We've got a major event in Pakistan that we've just seen in January, so a lot more to come there. But thank you very much for your input, and we'll see you throughout the tournament. Thanks, Jim. Cheers.
Thanks, Joe.
Good handshake, Joey. Very good. Good to hear more from James there and the state of the game in Pakistan. What other takeaways did you sort of get from him earlier this morning?
I mean, he did an amazing documentary on Hashim Khan, who is the godfather of squash. He was the catalyst, as he said in the interview. But he, he's a published historian, and the fact that he plays squash and he looks into all these different all these different areas of the history of the game. We need that. There is a really cool, unique history, and the fact that the Pakistan squash has kind of disappeared for quite some time and now is back with the PSA doing a great job with the men's and women's event. It's a great time to resurrect it, really, and I hope we start seeing some players out there.
It's definitely about trying to rebuild sort of previous territories that squash has held, whether it be Pakistan or even Australia. I know we're going back there, back to Brisbane in March, which is, you know, great to get that back on the calendar as a gold event. So how important to keep reaching out to those territories and new territories as well, the likes of Korea and China, where there's all this, you know, growing talent.
We want to see more diversity, don't we, always? South Korea, as you mentioned, they have a very strong domestic program. We're actually going to be going there for the World Team Championships later on this year in December, so I'm very excited for that. But yeah, I think that the more we can get some diverse flags on the calendar, I mean, we see so many Egyptian flags, which is great because they've really improved the sport, but we want to see some other countries coming back into the fold, like Australia, as you mentioned. They were so dominant once upon a time.
Yeah, massive in the men's and the women's. Excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat, but you know, you didn't have that with Pakistan. There's not been. It was Carla Khan, who was brought up in England, and she played the PSA. But they haven't had anyone that's come through on the women's side, which is obviously there's a lot of cultural issues there with that, and hopefully that will be overcome. But the fact that they've put the women's event alongside the men's is a really good showing of the respect that's needed for the women, and for that to come through as well. But yeah, the history of the game, I love it. I mean, that's, you know, my dad's tied up in the whole thing. Yeah. And with the Australian players,
what are his thoughts? You know, I'd be keen to.
Well,
hear
he loves seeing the new countries in. You know, the South Americans coming into it, and you know, there was a lot of squash happening in Russia before the situation with the war, and hopefully when that gets sorted out, we'll see tournaments happening in that part of the world as well. But Eastern Europe as well, and you know, we need that mix of the traditional kind of countries where the origins came, and these new countries, as Nicole was saying. Korea, there's a real squash scene in Korea, and there's a really high level of player. And we've seen that with the juniors as well from Korea.
Absolutely. Well, we played Korea in the World Team Championships when it was in Hong Kong in 2024, and we were really we weren't surprised. We thought we were going to be surprised, but they were so good. They were so deep, and I think all of our teammates went to 5 because we just didn't know what to expect with them. Eventually, we did win, but they're very, very strong, and they play a very high level domestically. So they're kind of an unknown quantity.
I remember coming onto the PSA World Tour, and there was Zambian players. You know, you had players from South Africa, but from Zambia and different parts of Africa that were unbelievable athletes and really, really difficult to play. There was a guy called Patrick Chifunda who based himself. He's down in Virginia, and he was a nightmare to play if you had him in the first round down there when he was coaching down there, because he was playing so well. And again, that was that spread of squash being shown around the world with the British schools back then, and hopefully we'll get that back with these other countries getting back involved with it.
Oh, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. We're going to switch our attention back to America and the US, obviously here in New York. And Olivia Weaver, we're going to see her later in action, but she has split from Rod Martin, her coach, for a long time. I know, Nicole, you've been digging around getting us a bit more on this. So what's the latest?
Yeah, no, we're friends. I was actually coached by Rod Martin as well, and I've had tremendous memories working with Rod, as did Olivia. I was just speaking with her actually downstairs underneath the stands, and she was just saying that she's looking for those extra little percentages, right? I think if you go back a couple years ago to when she was working with Peter Nicole, and she had a couple of other influences in her corner as well, she decided that she needed to get stuck into one person. She needed to follow one method and really become very singular.
Why is that? Why does a player need to do that? Or is it different for different players?
Well, there's different coaching styles, aren't there, Joey? I'm sure you've experienced that over your time. And sometimes they can be conflicting messages.
Yeah, I mean, the players now talk about their teams. It's hard to keep up with the team. It keeps growing and growing and growing. So I think Peter Nicol still...
Is that a good thing, though? Because it's like, the more cooks in the kitchen.
No, I personally don't think so. I mean, you look at the players back in the day, and they would stick with their coach and go through, you know, they'd ride the wave with it as well, but they'd learn a lot about each other and go through. There's a lot of chopping and changing in this kind of modern era of squash, and I don't particularly agree with it always. I think they're always looking for that, you know, that chalice of that's going to be the right coach and it's going to get me there. The player at the end of the day has got to produce the goods. You know, the coach can't play the game for them. But yeah, the team aspect, you've got, you know, with the physio and stuff, but when there's an army of coaches, I just think I don't think it particularly works for a sport like squash.
Weaver's in good company as well. Carlos Alcaraz, he was just famously split from his coach. Emma Raducanu, if I'm thinking tennis as well, she seems to go through a lot of coaches. So is it about building that individual relationship with your coach to get the best results, and how do you ensure that, or is there no guarantee?
No, I do think you have to build the relationship, and that's actually what makes it so hard to split from a coach. It feels like a breakup sometimes. It feels,
I mean,
you're very
sorry,
invested.
you're saying about Alcaraz, that was his coach from a very young age.
He's 15.
Yeah, I know, a long period of time. I mean, Olivia Weaver's been with Rod Martin a couple of years,
3 years.
so it's not like it's been
short-term
all the way
relationship.
through. So it's been quite short, but this anomaly of Heisa Methat, who's over on the West Coast now, I mean, he's seeing a lot of these players that are coming to him. So it was originally Hanya El Hamami's coach and some of the male players as well, and then Gawad went over to him, and now Olivia Weaver's possibly going to be going there as well. So
bit of a pattern emerging here. Rod Martin over
I wonder
to the West.
what does Naron think about that?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to her. Hopefully
might be able to ask her later in the week. I'm not promising anything, but rumours are she might be joining us here in the Squash TV studio.
I think what Olivia was looking for was for that extra little percentage, that bit. So obviously, when she had one of the best seasons of her life, going up to world number 10 a couple years ago, and then she decided to make the move to Rod Martin, and she solidified herself at that 4 and 5 position, which she is now.
Which is great.
But now she's had a couple of losses, probably 3 key losses, I think, last season. Sherbini, Hamami, and then Orfi. Those are the 3 that she can't always consistently get over the line with. Well, she's beaten Orfi before, but she's not beaten the other 2. So I think that this is the sort of move where, she wants to beat the Egyptians, you got to go learn from the Egyptian.
I mean, it's a really fascinating situation with the coaches, because you get these great coaches, Malcolm Wilstrop in England, who didn't really hit a squash ball. He wasn't like a challenging player. He hadn't won world titles. And then you've got other former world champions that go into the coaching world and it doesn't really work out. I think Rod Martin, is an incredibly good coach, and I thought he was a great fit for Olivia Weaver from what we saw, what that was happening, and the fact that they've got that experience of winning world championships. I mean, I feel that if they can coach and they've got that experience, you're onto an absolute winner, because they're the ones that can translate what it's like to be in a final and compete under all the different pressures.
So talking of World Championships, let's reflect on what happened last year in 2025 against Nour El-Sherbini. This is Olivia Weaver, the now number 4 seed here at the Tournament of Champions. But let's reflect back on this. Was this a possible crunch point in their relationship?
Perhaps, maybe this was one of the first ones. This was a massive opportunity for Olivia Weaver. She went up and she led in this match and even got herself up to 8-3 in the 4th game against Sherbini. And then the 5th was actually not that close once Sherbini got her teeth sunk into it. I mean, there's a reason why she's won 8 world championships, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm just remembering, this situation back then. I mean, the Hong Kong situation with Nour El-Sherbini, where she took her out 3-love. Sherbini was being written off by a lot of different people, and she really did a job on her. Like, that was a real, see you later type thing. I thought it was going to be a lot more of a competitive match. I mean, again, from a coach's perspective, he's not there playing 8-3 in the 4th game. Yeah. He's not there. He's encouraging from.
What can a coach do in that scenario?
I mean, a player's got to take responsibility.
Yeah.
A player's got to take responsibility. I told you the coaches can't play the game for them, and they can give them all the tools to do it. They've got to go off and do it. So, from my point of view, it's like, I don't know if it's going to make a difference. For her, I hope it does. But
what do you think that's missing in her game to beat the top 3?
I don't think she's that close. I just think it was time. Just keep going. Honestly, I've been commentating on her and the improvements that have come in. Rod Martin, the way he sees it was, for me, as I just repeat myself, a good fit for her in terms of the way that she was playing her game.
She credits him for having got up to that highest world ranking.
And I just think she needed more time. She just needed more time. Yes, the demolition in Hong Kong, but then bounce back in. There's so many tournaments, you just keep rolling. So, for me, we'll see. I mean, she's got to play the game, and we'll see how she does here and how she does for the rest of the season.
Do players ever go back to coaches? So is the relationship totally gone? Do you ever take a step back and go, look, I was wrong as a player, can we work together again? Are there examples of that in the game?
It depends how it ends. If it ends well, then you probably could, but I think if it ends poorly, and I'm not saying that theirs has, I don't know how it ended, then I think you probably just shut the door and you move on. Take the best from it, and you keep the things that they helped you improve, but then you move on and into a new chapter.
It depends on relationships as well. I mean, Mohammed is a prime example. So Mohammed's main coach was my father, and he always used to tap in, even though he's been coached by Rod Martin, David Palmer, all these, you know, Gregory as well, and he used to go and speak to him to get a bit more. And I mean, that's obviously an unusual situation, but at the moment I think the way it happens, it's like this kind of ruthless, right, I'm moving on to the next person. I don't think there's going to be much accord between them. I don't know.
Okay, we're going to move on as well now to Amina Orfi and talk a little bit about her. She could take the world #1 spot with a victory here at the Tournament of Champions this year at the start of 2026. These are the permutations. She has to win the event, and El Hammamy does not reach the final, so quite a lot playing on it. But let's just get your take on that and the potential switch in world rankings. We know she's guaranteed to go up to world #2.
I mean, I can't believe she could leapfrog and go up to straight up to world #1. That would be absolutely unbelievable. And I mean, Hani El Hammamy, she's only just reached world #1, so to be dethroned so quickly would be quite a blow to her. But obviously, with Nouran Gohar out, I know that they'll think that there's just this presence looming in the background, just waiting to resurface.
Oh, she will. I mean, you know, she's going to be looming in the studio. You know, we're going to be very polite to her, but no, it's going to be really, really exciting to see how that fares. With Gohar going out of the fold and with Shorbagy, you know, having a tougher time, thought, well, El Hammamy's, you know, going to be dominating. I still think she's going to hold the #1 spot, but Orfi is just on fire, and she's got a really good relationship with Omar Mossad, her new coach, and it's a good fit. They're a good fit again.
And she's won 4 tournaments this season. Let's reflect back on those success there in Karachi, most recently, of course, in January, just a couple of weeks ago, to kickstart the second half of the season.
Yeah, certainly. I think one of the more interesting matches actually was in the quarterfinals, where she played Ira Asman, who was a runner-up to Amina Orfi in one of the 4 junior world championships that Amina Orfi won. So maybe just a bit of history between them. But then, I mean, beating Supermanium 3-love in the final, that says a lot. It's a big message.
Who's got the toughest draw here out of those two between El Hammamy and Orfi?
You've got to say El Hammamy, because she's got Shorbagy in the semi-final if they get there. I mean, that's massive. You know, that's a lot of pressure for El Hammamy, but you know, they've got a really amazing relationship where in Hong Kong they were going shopping together in the day and playing each other in a major semi in the evening. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Each other
fashion advice. So you should wear that, and I should wear this.
It's pretty amazing.
You don't want to clash colours on court.
You know, I mean, that's a massive semi-final. You know, pressure on for El Hammamy and Shorbagy to get stuck in as well. So
long way still to go. Of course, it's still only day 2, round 1 of this year's event. So obviously, lots of permutations that may or may not happen. But good to speculate on them nonetheless.
It really is. I mean, I love seeing the stats, the numbers. When you see how close it is between world #1 and world #2, that makes it all the more exciting as well. I think at the US Open, there was a stat where it was between 0.5 of a difference, which is so small. Usually you see hundreds of points of difference in ranking points. So to be 0.5, to be so close, it shows basically how it could be the flip of a coin.
Yeah, definitely.
Women's game a bit more exciting than the men's game currently. I'd like to follow as a spectator, or do you think they're sort of evenly balanced?
I mean, you've got these players that are stacking up in the top 8 as well. So I mean, the men's is hopefully going to hot up. The women's is wicked.
Mohammed ElShorbagy, let's talk about him. He could break a record this evening as well, taking the most wins in the modern era. If he wins tonight against Juan Vargas, currently level with his coach there, Greg Gaultier, the two of them. Just run us through some of those stats, Joey, and what stands out for you. Big night for Mohammed tonight.
Yeah, it is. I mean, he's making all these records. I love the way that he's still continuing battling away the old goat that he is, the Capricorn. But and the fact that Greg is coaching him now, and he's kind of surpassing the French general. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be his last season, but I mean, he's in the history books in so many different ways, and it's wonderful. And he's getting stuck in. What I love about it as well is when he does lose a match, he's so decent with the opponents. You know, he's very admirable. I've got a lot of respect for the old goat.
Yeah, he beat Noor Zaman in 5 in Pakistan the other day. That was a really good performance from him. Just narrowly got over the line, and it was cool to see the respect actually that Zaman had for Shorbagy, because he would have grown up watching him. So he's leaving that sort of legacy even while he's still playing.
Yeah, I mean, last year he played Ali Farag here, and he was up on Ali Farag. He was 2-love up. He ended up losing in 5. So always a danger. You know,
No
he's
Ali
always a
Farag
danger.
this year. Do we miss him? We must do, surely.
Yeah,
Defending
definitely.
champions
There was a massive golf left when he retired.
Yeah.
Huge golf left, and I'm looking forward to seeing Diego Elias back. He needs to get back in the mix to challenge Asal. He needs to challenge Asal.
Okay, we're officially about to get day 2 underway, so Squash TV just about to start. Thanks for joining us for this short half-an-hour preview. You can flick over now to squash.tv for today's action from day 2.